Hi, it's Barry Neale here from hypnosisessex.com. As one of the leading experts in treating anxiety and panic disorders, I'm often asked the question, what's the most effective method for treating anxiety or panic disorders? And the answer to that is really to treat the whole person, because it's more than what you think it is. Anxiety in this situation is more than just a simple emotion. In fact, I would argue that it's not just a simple emotion. There are two types of anxiety. There are simple anxieties, like for example, I've just recently worked with someone who's he's got to do a speech at his wedding, and when he thinks about giving that speech at his wedding, he's absolutely terrified. Now that's a simple anxiety. Everything else in his life is absolutely fine, but he's got one specific event in the future when he thinks about it, it makes him feel bad. But generalized anxiety, social anxiety, these sorts of things, they're not simple emotions. They are a complete overstimulation of the entire nervous system. That your nervous system goes into something called the fight or flight response, or the sympathetic arousal. And so the entire nervous system is overstimulated. And one of the problems is that many types of therapies like counselling or CBT try to just address your thoughts about whatever is going on in your life. Now the problem with that is you're already experiencing it. It's a bit like trying to bolt the door after the horse has already run off. It's not going to work. It's very difficult for you to do that. So we need to be looking at what is causing the overstimulation of the entire nervous system. Because if we treat that, then your anxiety levels come down very, 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 very quickly. So let's look at this model. And this is really, really important to understand, because this is why drug treatments have very little effect and why counselling and CBT have very little effect on generalised anxiety. So first of all, we've got to look at what's been happening in your past. So your past definitely affects how you feel right now. And a lot of times when we go through stuff in our past, if we don't fully resolve it at the time, it kind of builds up like a pressure cooker. And so in the past, we could be looking at things like past traumas, but also emotions, and specifically emotions such as regret, remorse, guilt, and shame. Now, all these things, if you've got those in your life, if you've got those in your mind from the past, are going to cause an overstimulation of your nervous system. So if you, as you're listening to this video, if any of those ring true, that's kind of why you've probably got anxiety, and we need to deal with those. So what that does is that overstimulates your nervous system and gets you thinking about your future, and you have anxiety, worry, and something called rumination. So you start running these thoughts through your head over and over and over again. So all this drives that, okay? So that's what's driving the anxiety. But then there's a third part, and this is the really important thing, is because the third part is what's happening in the present. And that is typically emotions such as anger and frustration. So there's anger and frustration. And so the trauma, the regret, remorse, or the guilt, the shame, that drives the anxiety and the worry and the rumination. And then that drives the anger and the frustration you experience in the present. So you probably find yourself getting really frustrated with yourself or other people. Maybe you get angry with some other people as well because you're anxious and they're not kind of doing what you want them to do, and you get really angry with them. Well, then what happens is that comes back to here and gives you more regret, remorse, guilt, and shame. And so it becomes a vicious cycle. So that more this goes on, the more it drives this. Now, most therapies are going to try and to work with the anxiety here, and they ignore all this. But this is what's driving it. So when you come to see me, either in one-on-one session or over Zoom, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at your past. So first of all, we're going to look at any traumas that you've got, and I'm going to work with the trauma, and we're going to knock that out. Then if you've got any regret in your life, we're going to knock that out. If you've got any remorse, we're going to knock that out. And a lot of times for people, they've got a lot of guilt in their life, so we're going to take care of that as well. So now we've taken care of that, and then we're going to look at what's happening in the present. What are you angry about? How much anger you got in your life? What's building up there? What about the frustration? What's frustrating you? You know, I get to work with people who are unfortunately in this last 18 months have been in situations where they get really, really frustrated because how life has changed. So we then work with that. We deal with the frustration, and then we deal with the anger. And then what happens is this takes care of itself. It just stops. Because when I treat this and I treat this with my clients, I say to them, okay, now we've dealt with that, try and feel the anxiety and tell me what happens. And the interesting thing is, it disappears. Because it's the overstimulation of the nervous system that's the problem. Treating this and this alone is never going to solve the problem. You have to deal with those things. So if this rings a bell with you, if this sounds like your life, if I just explained your life, then you may want to consider dealing with these issues, either with me or some other therapist, but this is where the problem really lies. So if you want to overcome anxiety, generalized anxiety, this is what you need to do. It's all very well taking a pill, or it's all very well talking to a counselor, and it's all very well doing a bit of mindfulness to try and calm your mind down. But if all this is still going on, it ain't going away. So it's really, really important. If you've got generalized anxiety disorder or social anxiety, things like that, you really need to work with those issues. If you do, then the anxiety takes care of yourself. So if you like this video, remember to like and subscribe it. If you have any questions, put them in the box down below. And of course, if you think, you know what, I really need to get some help, give me a call. Let me know. I'm sure I can help you. So this is Barry Neale from hypnosisessex.com. If you want to come to the website, I've got loads of information and free videos there. So I'd like to see you in person one day, hopefully help you with these issues. Until then, please like and subscribe. I'll see you soon.